Hi everyone. I am Christianity with K once again, and I am with my creative co-flame, creative partner, HiddenInSofia. I don't know if we actually introduced ourselves at some point. I don't think we
I'm not
have, but
exactly sure.
anyway, I
Uh,
am a painter predominantly, and you are.
and well, I'm many things, but creatively, I'm a photographer. And as you said, just all around creative lover.
Yeah, and like me, a complete nerd. We have in common a passion for anything creative of the type of movies, books, music, philosophy,
Yeah,
whatever
anything.
it is. And yeah, this is us. This is our first introduction after like 15 videos we've done together.
Well, better late than never.
And by the way, if you guys watch this and you come up with a topic that you want us to discuss, and if we are knowledgeable about it, feel free to tell us.
Yeah, or even if we're not very knowledgeable about it, we can research it and still discuss it. I'm
Or
always up for
can
research.
we? Depends on how busy we are, but anyway.
Oh, yeah, sure.
This time, however, we are here to discuss a topic that is very near and dear to us because we're both fans of Marilyn Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we are, at least for me, what I can say about myself is that I am not fascinated by her movies in particular. I am more of a fan of the historical side of it, the historical aspect of her life and her personality and whatever happened to her, including her movies, because of course they are part of her life. So it's Marilyn and specifically one of her films called The Misfits. Now, the thing is, I guess everybody knows Marilyn Monroe. Everybody's heard of her at least. That's how insanely famous she is, and she will, I think, always be. But I don't think many people know about this movie, specifically about this movie. Now, when you hear Marilyn, I guess you picture right away Some Like It Hot.
Gentlemen prefer blondes. Oh, and you might even picture the Happy Birthday, Mr. President, this performance. So yeah.
And not many people know about The Misfits. Now, this time, we will discuss this film in particular, and we're going to talk, Marilyn in general, but more in context of this film. The thing about this film is, first of all, it was made in the twilight of her career, so to speak, and her
Hmm.
life, basically, because she died, I think, no more than 2 years later, even less than two
Yeah,
years later.
I think filming wrapped up like November of 1961, and then she died in August 1962,
Yeah.
if I'm correct.
And this was her last official film that she completed because after this she made one more called
Something's got to give, yeah.
yeah, so this was her last film which she didn't complete. The Misfits, however, she did complete and it's officially counted as her last film. So it's her last film. It's in her twilight years, and it wasn't successful. I don't think it was successful by any means.
Yeah, at least at that point, I mean, it wasn't very well received.
I think it was a fail even, yeah, at the box office or whatever. So that's why I guess people generally do not know it. And the people who do know it are fans like us who care
Mm-hmm.
about her life's history, and the whole context of Marilyn. And so, with this short introduction, let's start with you. Your first thoughts on the film.
Yeah, just before that, I'm going to tell you about my interest in Marilyn. So it's actually not that old of an interest. So I think I kind of caught the book from you because you were very fascinated with her.
Yeah.
And when you told me more about her, because before that, I had some glimpses of her. Like you said, with the gentlemen prefer blondes, I think it was that. I had watched this, and over the years, I've seen bits of her story, but still, I didn't know too much about her. And when you started telling me about your fascination, I started learning more. And just as you said, I'm very fascinated with her and by her, but not specifically with the movies. Although, as you said, they are important. I'm specifically fascinated by her story and by the psychological aspect of what I mean, at least what I imagine to be the psychological aspect of how she perceived everything that happened to her and what ultimately led her to her untimely death. So I'm also fascinated with that aspect. But as you said, The Misfits is not as popular, I think, because sure, it wasn't a box office success, or I'm not sure if there was a box office back then, but critics didn't like it. I'm
Yeah,
not sure if the audience liked it too much too, and it definitely did not bring too much money, and it was shot by an independent studio also, which didn't really help too. So this movie should have been forgotten.
I think it is
Uh, it
mostly.
is to an extent, but it's interesting. What's interesting is that there are still people who know about it. I think that if it wasn't for the tragic things that happened during the filming and after the filming, I think that nobody would have known it, except for some, as you said, Marilyn Monroe nerds that
Yeah.
are acquainted with her whole biography and every movie and performance and so on. What makes it interesting is very much like mirroring what I said about Marilyn. It's not so much the story, it's not the script of the movie, it's more of the story around it and
Yeah.
the real life people, not the characters but the actors and their life stories. And then of course after the movie ended, I think from the main characters, three of them lost their lives, like Clark Gable even a week or two after. Then it was Marilyn Monroe, and I think the last one was Cliff Montgomery. He lost his life around 5 years later. But there was tragedy all around the filming and then after.
Because you mentioned that the film only interests you, which I agree with, the film only interests you in terms of its making and the real story around the people who worked on it. But the film itself, the story in the film, the fictional script, did that interest you at all? Was there anything that grabbed you in the film, like in terms of characters, in terms of the story, or nothing at all?
Well, I wouldn't say nothing, but I read the short story because a little backstory. So the film was actually an adaptation of a short story by Arthur Miller. He was her Marilyn Monroe's husband at the time. He actually wrote this story, I think 3 or 4 years earlier, and it had nothing to do with Marilyn Monroe at that point. But then he decided to adapt the script so that she can play the role of Roslyn, who
Yeah.
is one of the three misfits. So then he started rewriting the script. And when I read the short story, I think it had some interesting moments, but maybe I'm not the right audience. Maybe it was written with another type of reader at mind, because it's about, America at the time and the cowboys, the Wild West, and the changing of times. At least that's what I gathered from it. So the short story and then the script, I think the short story is a bit more explicit, so I could, learn more about the main idea behind it. When I first watched the actual movie, I almost didn't get the idea, the story. It was very strange
Yeah,
and
me either.
yeah. So I think that the masterpiece of this film is the way in which the characters closely resemble the lives and the personalities of the people, the actors that actually play them, to the extent that it almost turns into a documentary style of film. Did you have that feeling when you watched it, that you were watching a sort of reality show or a documentary about something and not a fictional story?
So when I saw it, and I've seen it only once with lots of replays, and it took me 2 evenings to watch it because it was so
Mm-hmm.
boring. I couldn't take all
Yeah,
of
same.
it in one go. And when I watched it, I just perceived it as a typically weird 60s
Mm-hmm.
melodrama. And in this sense, I hated it because I think cinema in the 60s and 50s was really, really, how should I say it? They kind of feel artificial because this was the film code back then that you had to like comply within, reasonable standards of the kind of characters you can portray, how you can
Mm-hmm.
act them out and whatever. You just it just feels fake and unrealistic because it's it's the '60s cinema. So
Yeah, it had a more theatrical feeling. It's just too theatrical for us as a modern audience to relate to it.
in many ways, modern cinema is way more honest in terms of people's relationships and people's behavior. So this is what I hated about it. And what I liked about it, the film specifically and the fictional story in it, excluding the real life stuff around Marilyn and the actors or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the historical aspect of it in terms of this theme of, the sunset of cowboys in America.
Mm-hmm.
Because the film depicts a story of, it was, I think, a couple of men, three men. Only, I guess, one of them was officially still a cowboy.
Yeah, but I think that they were still cowboys, but they had less and less to do because the
Yeah, exactly.
cowboys were dying out. As
Exactly.
a
It was the sunset of having cowboys like at all because the world was changing at that time. It was the '60s. We're getting to the modern era, and
Mm-hmm.
cowboys were people from like the 19th century. So I liked this part of the story because I never thought about disappearing cowboys and the sadness around that. And the other thing that I liked is little historical tidbits I didn't know before. Like, for example, the film takes place in Reno, Nevada,
Reno, yeah.
which was at the time a famous place where you can get a cheap and
Divorce.
easy divorce. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a divorce capital, I think they called it.
yeah, the divorce capital exactly. So this was, to me at least, fascinating.
Yeah.
And also, when I look at the film, it's like when I watch this kind of old movie, I always look around, every shot in the streets and the buildings around them, because there are these like modern day social media people that they are like buffs, and they go
Mm-hmm.
around where these films were shot and they make comparison photos from nowadays exactly matched to the film shot where the building is, for example, or where the actors
Mm-hmm.
pass by. And this is like really cool to like make this comparison between what it was in the '60s and what it is now, if it's still there at all. I kind of watch it with a, how should I say it?
As a historical artifact or a document, maybe as
Yeah,
like
yeah, as an archaeological hard-on.
yeah, that's a very interesting way to
So,
put it.
so in this sense, I enjoyed the film. I liked it.
You know what I liked about it? Because I pretty much found it boring when I first watched it. But later on, because I watched it a second time, and again it took me a very long time because it's very slow paced. But what I liked, apart from the documentary type of element which I mentioned, I like the tragic element of these people who are cowboys, but as you said, they are now fading out. But at the same time, they do not want to find a regular job, and so they're stuck in this weird cycle when they're forced to hunt wild horses to make dog food, which is absurd.
Yeah, this is fucking
Before
insane.
it's fucking insane.
I thought this was crazy when I saw it for the first time.
Absolutely, I couldn't even,
Wild horses for dog
I
food.
never even thought that they actually used wild horse meat to make dog food. So there's this tragic element. It's like mirroring the tragic elements in the lives of the actors. To me, this film is a masterpiece, but only in retrospect. So only if looked with the context of what was going on in the lives of the actors and during filming and
Yeah.
what went after. But I think that it's just a masterpiece that had to wait a few years to become a masterpiece. And at the time, it was just, as you said, the regular 60s film. And people didn't know. People didn't know that it was going to be Marilyn's last film, that it was going to be Clark Gable's last film. I think that when something is somebody's last work, whether it be like a book, a film, or a song, doesn't matter, we instantly romanticize it. But here, just not just plain romanticization, it's just very, very interesting. So do you want to delve like deeper into what went on during filming?
Yeah, go ahead.
So as I said, Arthur Miller wrote this short story, and because Marilyn Monroe had been typecast for a very very long time as a dumb blonde, and it's very ironical that this was a character that she created so that she can become popular. At least that's what I feel. It was a character that she created so that she can win over as many people as possible
Yeah.
and maybe later on pursue more serious roles. But what happened was that people liked her so much in this role that they just assumed that that's who she was, and they didn't want to see anything else in her. And this applied to the studios. This applied to other actors. Everybody thought that she was just a dumb blonde. She didn't
Mm.
know better, and so she should stick to the comedies and the unserious films. But I
Yeah.
think she was a very complex person, and she had the bigger aspirations, and she wanted to do something serious. So Arthur Miller decided to give her a gift, to write a role specifically for her, so that she can finally break free from these shackles that she herself in a way created. And also I think it was a temporary thing in her mind, but then the everybody else just put her in this box, and she seemed trapped, so he
Mm.
wanted to help her out. And he wrote, in the original short story, Rosalind was just a passing character. She was not a main character, at least from what I've read. Point is, the short story, it was not that long.
Did you like the story more than the film, or vice versa?
No, I think I like the film more because, as I said, I read it a few months ago, and I'm telling you, I can't really remember
Anything from it?
much
Yeah.
of it. So I think that it didn't leave a lasting impression on me. But what's interesting is that so he was Arthur Miller was in Reno because he was getting a divorce from his then wife
Yeah.
to marry Marilyn, and there he met two
But this is let's
cowboys.
just pinpoint it. I think this was in '56, like
Yeah, it
four
was
years before the
either
film.
56 or 57. I think it was 56. So he met two cowboys and I think a woman. I watched an interview where he called her a wise Western woman type. So, anyway, he met these people, he spoke to them, and he found their story interesting, and he wrote this. But Rosalind wasn't a main character. And then later on, after marrying Marilyn and after, I guess, her sharing with him her biggest insecurity and bone to pick with the industry,
Yeah.
he decided to provide her with a way to show this side of hers, the serious side, because I think he even said if he didn't write this short story and if she didn't play the main character, the female, protagonist, that she probably would have never been given the chance to play a serious role. And it sounds very, cocky, but on the other hand, I think he's right. I think that probably nobody would have given her the chance.
No,
So,
and I'll tell you why, because this is not many people know this, but I guess it's normal. This was not her first serious role. She played at least two other previous film in which she had dramatic roles. One of them was
can you tell me? Yeah, there was this one, the bus stop or something. But what's
I
the other one?
I haven't seen Bus Stop yet. I think this one is dramatic too, but I haven't watched it still.
Yeah.
The two that I've seen with her, so one of them is called Don't Bother to Knock. I think it was
Uh-huh.
from 1952. It's black and white, where she plays a young girl who is psychotic.
Mm-hmm.
And she basically becomes psychopathic in the film and kidnaps a girl and tries to kill
Wow.
people. And I think this film was fascinating, and she's great in it.
That's actually very interesting. I
Yeah,
I feel like watching this.
yeah,
I've never seen.
you should watch it. It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
And the other one is Niagara, where she
Mm-hmm.
played a woman who's married but has a lover and wants to marry her lover, and then she makes plans with her lover to kill her husband.
Uh-huh. I think I saw like snippets of this, but
Yeah, you've seen it. Yeah,
somehow it didn't register as a the serious role when
yeah.
I Yeah, maybe I don't know, maybe they did not consider these films as serious at the time. I'm not exactly sure.
I would say that Miller, in saying this, that she never would have had a serious role if she didn't get like Rosalind. Like fuck off. She already did
Well,
those films and she was great in them. And I think
he
she
is
was,
problematic.
yeah, I think she was much better in those films than she was in the Misfits.
I think there's a reason, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't think that the Misfits is her best performance
Not
by
at
no
all.
means.
I think she is really kind of bad in it.
And I'm going to tell you why it actually clicked because I've been researching this for a while,
Is it about Paula
but
Strasberg?
oh yeah, I learned about her too, and she's a whole rabbit hole in
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
herself. But no, I think that what happened. So I'm going to leave the backstory for a second to tell you how I feel about it. I
Okay.
think what happened is this. So she was Norma Jean, right? And she created this Marilyn Monroe persona, like an alter ego, because she knew that that's what's going to get people to like her and make her popular and so on. And so she created this persona, but she still felt that this is not her true self. And she really badly wanted to play her true self, which was different than this persona, this sex symbol that everybody knew. And
You know, I should make a little note that Marilyn Monroe is a woman that is enveloped in lots and lots of mythology. And one of the huge myths about her is that she was this Norma Jean and then she became Marilyn Monroe, which was completely kind of crazy and insane. The studio system at the time, and even afterwards and before that, did this with more or less every actress. It was typical for them to get in the industry and become some sort of a stamp of a character. Whether the woman was like able to play a serious role like Elizabeth Taylor, or a comedic role like Marilyn, or a mix of them, each one of them, when she passed through the studio system, they kind of figured out what she's good at.
yeah,
Based
they
on this,
typecasted them.
yeah. And based on this, they give them these specific labels. And it's also very typical for each one of these actresses. If she has a boring name, which Norma Jean is, they change it. This is the case with lots of these actresses. They change the name and they give them these iconic roles that they usually take up in order to make people go see them in the theater. So the thing about her making up this persona and becoming, blurring the lines between the two is like a bit overplayed, at least in my opinion. She had problems with it. She definitely kind of got a little bit too deep into it, but I think she had much more trouble with what she did to her psychology with method acting instead of this Marilyn persona.
Yeah, that too. That's a big part, but I think that it's actually intertwined. So yeah, it's mythologized for sure, and of course they did this to every actress. But at the same time, she had a very dysfunctional childhood. So I think that even early on, she started to play pretend, you know? Of course, these are speculations on my part, but I think she started to play pretend to imagine what she wants her life to be because the reality was very grim, very dark. And so I think, of course, her image was partly, in part crafted by the studios, but at the same time, I think that she had a very big role in crafting this persona. And I'm not, what I said was not to portray her as a victim because I think she did this very intentionally. This was not her being victimized. No, no, no. She knew what she was doing. She knew that this is going to make her marketable, make her lovable, gain her popularity and,
Yeah, it's always a
fame
mix
and
of both.
money. Yeah, it's a mix of both. So I think she knew what she was doing. But, the more she played this persona, and as you mentioned, when she got into method acting and she got into psychoanalysis and going to therapy every day and so on.
Yeah,
And the her relationship with her therapist, like
yeah,
the her last therapist, is just so problematic,
yeah, yeah.
as well as the relationship with her teacher. at the acting class and his family.
All of them.
But
She did this, by the way. It's not like it was only the last doctor or the last coach. She did this throughout all of her career with every single one of
yeah,
our coaches, every single one of our doctors, and her closest friends, by the way. She like
yeah, because she
went.
was desperately searching for a father and a mother
Yeah,
figure, especially for a father figure, but as
she,
well as a mother figure.
she was psychologically, from the very start of her life, she was a complete clusterfuck. And toward
Mm-hmm.
the end, when it got like really, really difficult for her, and this is why I think, by the way, all of these theories around her being killed or whatever are complete crap. Because it's like people think she was killed because they don't realize toward the end of her life how much of a mess she was
Oh yeah,
in every
definitely.
regard.
But you know what? Although this is more of like end of the video discussion, but regarding her death, I think that although I also believe she killed herself, I don't think that she really intended to kill herself because she had various suicide attempts, but usually she it was more a cry for attention, a cry for help than a real desire to die. I mean, I'm sure she had suicidal thoughts because she went into these very deep depressions and so on, but I don't think she really wanted to die. But the combination of drinking, heavily drinking, and there are some theories that maybe she took some pills and then she forgot how many pills she took and then she took some more. I think it was accidental, but I do believe that there is some of the conspiracies might have a bit of a grain of truth, but if you want, we can leave that for the end of the discussion.
I can just make a quick interjection about the thing you mentioned about her, whether or not she killed herself. There was this
Yeah.
great interview with her pathologist, the doctor that actually examined her afterwards and that
Mm-hmm.
took care of her before that. And he said what he thought. She had a depressive episode, went into I guess, like a panic attack or something.
Mm-hmm.
So she did want to kill herself. She took all these pills. Then she started to go under. She felt
Uh-huh.
herself falling asleep and she thought differently about it. So she started
Uh-huh.
calling all of these people that, she was supposed to be at some kind of dinner outside with her friends or whatever. And
Yeah, I think she was invited.
yeah, she was invited and she refused. And once she took the pills, she started calling all of them one by one.
But I don't think that's exactly right, at least from what I've read. At least what I gathered was that she was calling these people before she took the pills, and then I think she made one last call,
The last
and
one she
then
made was to Peter Lawford, and when she
yeah.
called him, he said that she was already sounding like, inadequate. So
Mm-hmm.
this was while she was already falling asleep from the overdose. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think the doctor was is completely right. Of course, we can never prove this anyway, but I think this is what happened actually. She wanted to kill herself, and she tried it many times before. And that time, she once again took the pills, as you said, as a call for attention, then thought better of it, and started to like try to revert back the clock, but it was, of course, too late, and she died. But anyway,
Yeah, I think that's a very likely explanation, but as you said, we would never know what actually happened. But anyways, back to the Arthur Miller thing. Not only he decided, as you said, we can argue about if because of course he wanted to seem like the person who gave her, the chance to prove herself. Yeah, maybe he wasn't her only chance. Although people were very skeptical of her abilities, but maybe if she would have lived longer, she would have had more opportunities. But what he did was he took this Rosling character, which was a very minor character, and he actually rewrote her for Marilyn, taking pieces, not only pieces of Marilyn's backstory, pieces of her character traits and interests and personality. He even took pieces of conversations they had, like personal conversations,
yeah.
which is, I think, a little bit questionable. And so that's what I find, psychologically speaking, very interesting about this film.
He
She
did
made this
he did the
persona.
same
Yeah.
with Monty Clift because
Hmm.
you remember
Oh yeah, right.
the scene at the telephone booth where she
The
talks with
telephone booth. Exactly. Yeah.
he talks about how he injured his face or whatever.
Yeah, and that's a real accident he had with what was it? It was the
He had a car crash before the film, I think it was, with severe damage to the face. And Arthur Miller, being the sly asshole that he was,
yeah.
used this in the film. And he did the same with Marilyn. Remember the scene where they opened up this, what was it, like a wardrobe or something? And on the
Oh
door,
yeah, with the
yeah,
pictures.
there's a pictures of her from her life before this. So it's a really, really sly method of Arthur just implementing real life stuff into the
Yeah,
film.
he's a very obvious type of writer. Although I found this scene actually not that bad because it seemed to portray Marilyn's desire to, close this page,
Yeah,
close this chapter
yeah.
of her life, which is okay. I mean, of course, it's a bit too on the nose, but still, I can take it. But if you think this is assholish of him, I don't know if you heard about another of his short stories, which was After the Fall and was written after Marilyn's death.
Yeah, and
Have you?
he used a
Yeah,
character there that killed herself, I think. Like her.
exactly. And Roslyn, so Roslyn and Marilyn, we can see the similarities. And then we have like, what was her name? I think it was Maggie or something. It was still with an M. So he was looking for a very direct similarities, And of course, she was blonde and she was, I think, again, an actress or. And it's just so obvious. It's
I
so
think
obvious who he's referring to. And I think he's just, capitalizing off of
yeah,
Marilyn Monroe.
he's a giant milker. What was the word?
Mm-hmm.
Moocher.
Butcher. Yeah. But anyways, I think that if we take the Misfit story, I think that he, at the beginning at least, he really had good intentions. He wanted to write a serious role for her. But I think that although he had these good intentions, he actually, led her to her demise with this role because that's what I was getting to. She created this persona, whether it was all herself or she was working with the studios to create this persona, but she created this alter ego and she played it for a very long time, but at some point I think she started losing grip of who she actually is. She wanted to escape the persona and go back to herself, and this seemed as the perfect opportunity. But I think that psychologically speaking, it was very traumatic because he inserted so many of her personal traumas and things she had confided in him and so on, that she simultaneously was reliving the trauma with her mother. There was this conversation about her mother in the film,
Yeah,
and you can see. I don't know if this struck you, but it definitely struck me that when she speaks about her mother in the film, it's like she's reliving. She says, "I never saw her much," or
yeah, yeah.
something of the sort.
Uh,
It is like she's reliving. So she's re-traumatizing herself at the same time, going off of her method acting teacher
yeah,
and his ideas. She's trying to plunge herself into this character, and I think that just the lines blurred, totally blurred, between her and this Rosling character, who is very much her, and the Marilyn Monroe character. And then on top of that, I think what really helped to not only plunge her deep into despair and depression and so on, but also to worsen her relationship with Arthur Miller, was the fact that although he claimed that he has written this serious role and he obviously had put a lot of effort into it, as you notice in the film, there are so many times where she's just plainly objectified and sexualized. So whether it's
yeah,
her butt bouncing on the horse, or while in the ping pong scene or the paddle ball scene, I think it's a
yeah,
paddle ball. Yeah.
yeah.
So I think that while playing and immersing into his character, she just realized that even her husband, who supposedly had her best interest in mind and, knew her very well, even he actually couldn't get past this persona.
Even
And
he is an oogling sexist.
exactly. And I think it was very, it was very, very hard for her.
You know, when I
Uh,
watched this film for the first time, I laughed out every single time one of these moments came in. It's like, oh, it's so
yeah.
much drama and the traumatic cowboy experience and the lost girl, and then suddenly the camera's on her ass.
Yeah, that's what I wonder. I mean, he says in this quote that this was the only serious role for her. And and by serious he means her ass seriously jiggling
Serious
on
buttocks.
the saddle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some serious buttocks action.
this is this is one of the reasons that I love watching old films so much because they're so
Yeah, they're
inappropriate.
absolutely inappropriate, and it's just absurdist in a way.
Yeah.
It's absurdist what's happening, because as you said, we have these very dramatic moments, and then interspersed we have like butt shots, boob shots, jiggling things, everything. Just it's entertainment for the whole family.
And what was even more sexist than the ass shots for me, it was like so the film was written and the story was written by a man.
Hmm.
So what do you imagine? Think about how this man comes up with a female character. First of all, he imagines the ass, the jiggling ass,
Yeah.
the boobs and whatever. And then he says to himself, okay, now I have to make her complex and I'll make her because she's a girl and she's beautiful. She has to be angelic, and I need to express this quality of her being a good person. So what will I do? She's gonna care about the rabbits and the horses.
Yeah.
It's like
I think
so
that's what
fucking
she
stupid.
I think that's what she realized while playing this character, that he has no freaking idea who she actually is.
He has no idea what a woman is.
Yeah, that too. I mean, but he's just another man who is trying to put her into his, same box as the others, but pretending it's more elevated and more serious. But it's the same thing,
Do you
because
remember?
as you said, even if we if we remove the close-ups
Yeah.
of body parts, her character, it's very 2D,
Yeah.
and what depth there is just from Marilyn herself pouring herself out as best as she could, because she was in a very bad state.
Do you remember the scene where Kay wanted to like to kill some fucking rabbit or whatever, and she's like, "But why are you gonna kill the
Yeah.
rabbit?" Like, it's like,
No, it's like the. I mean, although I sympathize with this, it's the. I think it's the Snow White stereotype.
yeah, this is so imbecilic.
She's a pretty girl who likes to sing and dance and talk to the animals.
Yeah, it's so imbecilic. And this is his idea of an adult woman.
Yeah.
It's kind of beyond me how this guy was so famous for his plays or whatever.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? So, as I mentioned, their relationship soured during filming, for different reasons.
Yeah.
She has had an affair before that, and they had, many arguments around the script. And so they went into separate rooms. And after the filming wrapped up, he actually married a
The photographer.
photographer, one of the
Yeah.
photographers. Yeah, I think it was
Inga Moran.
Inga Moran. Yeah, and I think she was actually also included in After the Fall, but she was called Helga, which
Yeah.
again, can you be more obvious? Seriously.
We should mention, though, that because we just chat so much on Arthur Miller, I wanted to add this to make up for a little bit of a balance. Because after Marilyn died, a lot of people kind of harangued him because they blamed him and their failed marriage because of him for her
Hmm,
depression
really?
and for her, mood swings and her death. Basically, they kind of demonized him. So we should point out that yes, he might have been a stupid writer. He might have been, stereotypically sexist moron at the time. But also, this doesn't mean that she was perfect to him, that she was angelic or
Oh,
whatever.
no.
She behaved horribly toward him. I mean, the thing about the two of them is that they may have loved each other. I completely agree with that. But then he didn't understand her. And because he didn't, she got furious at it. And when she got furious, she just, shat on him. And
Yeah, she lashed out and had
she lashed
affairs.
out. Yeah, yeah. And people around the set at the time of the filmmaking of the Misfits all reported that she was horrible to him.
Hmm.
They did admit that, he didn't get her and he had his own problems or whatever, but she wasn't perfect either. It was kind of like
No,
the.
no, she definitely was not perfect. But something I've also read about their relationship is that very early on, I think after they married, I'm not exactly sure if this is alleged, but I watched it in a documentary. They said that she found a diary of his in which he wrote that he thought she was a princess, but now he realizes that she is not. And so he expressed his disillusionment with her, I think. And this sour things very early on, but then they somehow fixed it. So I think that she felt misunderstood very early on, and this made her lash out, which of course we cannot, say that she's innocent because she had many problems. And as we've spoke before, to some people she could be angelic, even very friendly.
She had the best and the worst of,
Hmm.
all spectrums. She was in no way ill-willing toward anyone. She didn't like harm anyone intentionally. But then she had also her dark side, which
Yeah.
was due to her being misunderstood or her having had a difficult childhood. All of these things, they
Yeah.
pile up, which makes for, and I guess each one of us has this. I am the same kind of person. I am never like outwardly and immediately attacking toward anyone. I always try to be kind and understanding and whatever. And then I also have my fucking dark sides. I
Well,
lash out at
everybody
people.
has one.
Yeah, I lash out at people sometimes. I fucking hate stupid people. There's things in people that I cannot tolerate like at all. So I'm a complex shit cake sandwich. And she was the same. And she
Yeah,
was.
it's just that different people bring out different things in a person. So I think that it depended on the people she met, the way they behaved towards her, and also I think that a very big part of it was the her traumas and her issues from childhood. And it's very ironic that she had so much therapy, but she could never actually work them out. It just seemed that her therapists were deepening the issues by playing some father figure type of roles for her.
Well, about this, you need to put into account that at the time, psychology as a field was really, really not developed, and they still
Yeah.
had, and not just psychology, medicine in general, because the pills that she
Yeah.
died from, Nembutal, it's banned nowadays. They don't produce it anymore because it's dangerous.
Hmm.
So at the time, it was really, really, I was gonna say backwards, but it was the 60s.
Well, in the 50s, like every housewife casually, took like amphetamines and
Yeah, yeah,
then sleeping pills. That's why that's why
yeah.
they were so productive at home. They were drugged out of their minds. So yeah.
In the movie industry, there was this trend, and you can say this about Judy Garland, you can say about this, you can say this about Marilyn and whatever. A lot
Hmm.
of them, because the work was so demanding and because the studio system was so harsh toward them, they had to rely a lot on drugs, and these drugs
Yeah.
were of two kinds: pills to give you energy, so like methamphetamines or whatever, and they call them uppers.
Uppers, yeah.
And then when you take the uppers, it's difficult to get asleep. So you need to take the so-called downers, so
Hmm.
sleeping pills. And this cycle of uppers and downers every day, year after year, it completely wrecks your mental state and physical state generally. Because you
Yeah,
get,
that's why a lot of them died very young.
yeah,
And also, a lot of them took drugs just to stay thin because there were these very harsh expectations,
right.
Oh, yeah, chain smoking, like,
Yeah, Julie Garland was smoking when she was in Oz, I think, just to keep thin.
yeah, can you imagine? Anyway, we digress. Let's discuss a bit more about what happened during the filming. So, what was Marilyn like? Can you?
I can kind of give you a mental exercise of you having to imagine being there, hired as an actor, let's say, working with these people and with her. So imagine that you're a young upcoming actor. You've trained a lot. You have invested money and time and energy and education in this. And you're like being offered a job, and you're like, oh my God, I'm an actor now. I'm officially
Yeah.
an actor. I have a job. I have a salary. This is my first project. I'm going to be like, this is my opportunity. This is my fucking chance.
Yeah, my
Eh,
big chance
My big
to make
chance.
it.
And you get there. And also you're like, and I'm in a movie with Marilyn Monroe. This is fucking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And you go there on time and you're all hyped up and work doesn't start for 6 hours because she's
Yeah.
late. Because she doesn't get there for six
You know,
hours.
this was a chronic thing with her, but I
Yeah.
think it's at that point it was just unmanageable. I actually heard that they moved the her call time to be noon because she just couldn't come on time in the morning because, as you said, she was taking she was taking uppers and then downers, and she couldn't actually get up in the morning. And as you mentioned, the medicine thing. I also learned something very interesting. It turns out that she had the endometriosis, and so she probably would have suffered with a lot of pain
Yeah,
during
yeah.
this whole
Yeah.
thing, and so she probably took painkillers as well, which just made the whole thing terrible, you
She
know.
was on all types of medicine, both
Yeah.
prescribed and not prescribed. And the ones that were not prescribed, she bought illegally from like even from abroad, from like Mexico and stuff, including like injection shots and all kinds of like bullshit that she took by
Just a
herself.
cocktail, yeah.
A cocktail of crap, and she was a complete mess in this regard. My point is, so imagine chronically late people, and this is easy for us
Mm-hmm.
because you and I think, are both
You're chronically late. We,
chronically
we
late
can actually
people.
relate.
Yeah. So every day when I go to work, I get late for like 30 minutes, an hour. Imagine if I did this like 6 hours every day.
Yeah.
This is my fucking
No,
working day is gonna end up.
your working day would be over.
And this is
Um,
just in terms of hours. There were cases where she didn't show up for days on end.
yeah, but I mean, she had this, image of being hard to work with, you know. But what's interesting about this film is that she wasn't the only person with these types of shenanigans. So, how about the director, John Huston? I actually read a very funny quote, I think on Reddit. Somebody said the casinos in Reno hated to see John Huston go.
Yeah.
He was he was constantly gambling. Every moment he had, he went to the casinos. He played, I think they call it craps or crap.
Yeah.
Not not exactly sure what this game is, but anyway, he gambled a lot. And so another interesting thing is that he lost a lot of money. And you know the
He lost the money on the production.
exactly. But you know what? They had a gambling budget. This is something that I've learned today.
Yeah.
So the studio, the independent studio, allotted them a gambling budget because they're going to Reno, which is full of casinos. So they decided to give them this money so that they can cover their losses, you know.
Yeah.
And he gambled so much and so hard that the total sum that he lost was $50,000, which was much more than they've allotted as expenses, you know. And he started calling people so that he can ask
Ask
for
for money.
money and donation. But, I think almost nobody helped them. And he had to speak with investors. And here is something interesting I found. I'm not sure if you know this, but if you do, I would be interested in your take. So I didn't know that. When he did this thing, I've read before that Marilyn was hospitalized during filming because of exhaustion, because of the drugs, and so on. But it actually turns out that this hospitalization was allegedly planned by Houston himself because so he spent all this money. They didn't have enough money, I think, to continue filming. He had to speak with the investors and so on. And so he actually told Marilyn that she can, go back to LA for a week. And she went. And she went not to go into hospital, but just, she was
To
thinking that she's
relax.
going
Yeah.
to get some rest, yeah, and so on. And then in this documentary, they said that Houston actually called her therapist and he said that her drug problem was getting out of hand, which was not, not a lie, but the timing was very suspicious. He told him that her drug problem and her usage is getting out of hand, and it would be best for her to go to the hospital. And so the therapist called her and said she has to go to hospital, but not to be hospitalized, as in a mental asylum, but to just for to rest, to be like a type of what was the word?
Wean off the medicine.
Something like that, something of the sort. And she went to the hospital. But actually, when she went into the hospital, she was put in an isolated ward, in a cell, basically, with bars on everything. And she couldn't get out for, I think, 4 or 5 days. And then she had one call. And she called one of her ex-husbands,
Joe
Joe
DiMaggio.
DiMaggio. He actually came and bailed her out. I think that he even said that if they don't let her out, he's going to single-handedly destroy the building, which was wild to me. So, and they say that he did this so that he can take the focus away from his gambling problem, because he not only he gambled so hard, he also, because he gambled till the early hours of the morning, he actually fell asleep multiple times while filming. And when he just fell asleep while filming, and then he wakes up and he can't even remember what take they're on and what they're doing.
Yeah,
He was a mess too. It was not only. It's interesting that, in retrospect, most people blame Marilyn for the production, for everything, and she definitely had her share, but it was not only her.
I wouldn't say that people blame only Marilyn. This was, you probably saw this from the Be Kind Rewind YouTube channel, I think it was. This
I think I
documentary
saw
about.
this. Yeah, yeah. It was a bit. I felt. I watched this. The documentary I'm referring is not this, but it was a French documentary.
Mhm.
But I've watched this too, and I felt the video a bit biased towards Marilyn.
Yeah, yeah, they always are.
But actually, in other articles I've read, there was also this idea that, at least at the time, she was blamed, and not only for the failure of the film, but also for Clark Gable's death, because
Yeah,
they said that because of her being late so much and the delays in filming, he had to spend too much time in the desert.
yeah,
But and so this led to his getting, I think, a heart attack.
yeah, heart
Was
attack.
heart attack? Yeah.
Multiple.
What I meant was that it was not only Marilyn. She definitely was a mess. There's no denying this. But at the same time, the other people had issues too. The other people on set.
Yes, as with all things in history, it's always a mix of the two. The problem is, though, that when you have this kind of a problem of one horrible production, but then only one iconic person from it that people will always remember, of course you will get blamed. And the thing
Yeah.
is, it's not that she is solely blamed, or even at the time that she was solely blamed. It's just that people knew her and not like John Huston. Like, who the fuck is John Huston?
Well, I think he was relatively famous at the time, but not as much as her. And but I think that there is this common thread throughout her life of men betraying her. And
Yeah,
I think John Huston is another example of this, because she actually trusted him because they've worked before on a previous film,
yeah, the
and she
Asphalt
felt
Jungle.
that, what did you say?
The Asphalt Jungle.
Yeah, exactly. And I think she felt that he was the person that understands her and can, portray her with his directions in the way she wants to. And then not only that he didn't do that, but he also kind of, threw her under the bus.
Yeah, it was a composite mixture of everyone being an idiot in their own way. They did blame her for the production to make to kind of conceal John Huston's problems.
Mm-hmm.
She did get into a ward, whatever it was, a mental hospital. Joe
Yeah.
DiMaggio did get her out of there. So all of this happened. It's true. I don't think you can pinpoint the blame on any one of them. They're all interconnected in this complex mess of a horrible drama.
They're
Marilyn was a
just
cluster.
feeding off each other.
Yeah, Marilyn is a clusterfuck. John Huston is a clusterfuck, and they're all kind of contributing to this circus.
Yeah, and even Clift Montgomery had his own issues, and he was actually a little bit of stigmatized as unreliable, but he didn't have he cleaned up his act for this film.
Yeah, yeah,
But for instance, Clark Gable, he wasn't a mess in the way that Marilyn and John Huston were, but he also had some very, how can I put it, like irrational decisions. So he, insisted he would do every one of his stunts,
yeah.
not use a stunt double. Another thing I've learned that he actually, a little bit before the beginning of filming, he quit both cigarettes and alcohol, which is a great decision, but the shock to the system from this, because he probably was too, maybe not a chain smoker, but he was definitely a smoker. He probably drank a lot, and
Yeah.
then he put his body in this very hostile environment, the desert,
And he was fucking old. He was like
and
58 or 60.
yeah, and he was not like 20 or
Yeah.
30 even. And so he was a mess in the sense that he was trying to, I don't know, relive something, maybe relive his youth, maybe, I don't know. So even his decisions contributed to the whole, to what happened in the end.
Yeah. And specifically for, because I said previously that all of them are to an extent guilty. When it comes to Gable's death, it's only his fault, I think. Nobody can be blamed, like Marilyn or whatever.
I don't think she can be blamed. Yeah, I
He was
mean
old.
she.
He was old. He shouldn't have done the stunt. He did it,
Yeah.
and he died. That's it.
Yeah, because if he had not insisted on doing this, I think that he would have had a better chance to survive, because even though there was heat and so on, I think what really strained him was these very elaborate stunts with the horses. And
Yeah, yeah.
at the same time, all of these people are at fault and are to blame in different ways. At the same time, they're all in a way victims, especially when I think of Marilyn, for instance. And but also I think that, I don't know, Clark Gable too, you could say that he's a victim of the industry, because I think he
No, he
felt
was.
that he's.
Clark Gable was famously a prostitute when he was younger.
Yeah, I mean, he was just like Marilyn was objectified
Yeah,
and, exploited. He was too. And I think that he felt that everything he's worked for is slipping through his fingers because he's getting old. And of course, the studios won't need him anymore. And so I think this was maybe his desire to prove that he still got it. This was the
maybe.
whole idea. I don't know. But at the same time, it's very interesting that unknowingly, the things they're talking about and discussing in the film are almost prophetic. They're speaking about death and despair and topics that directly relate to what will happen to them next. And it's very eerie to watch it.
But again, it's with the perspective. If you don't have the
Exactly. It's
perspective,
it's in retrospect.
yeah,
So this is very interesting. I've never thought about this, that something can be a masterpiece, but only in retrospect. I've always thought that if something is a good work of art, whatever type it may be,
yeah,
it's just a good work of art. Maybe people won't appreciate it immediately, but it's just innately a good work of art. And in this case, the context matters greatly, because without this context, this would have been just, like any other film, like any other movie. Nobody
yeah,
would care that
yeah.
much.
It's the same thing that
But
I
the.
said to you about Cleopatra with Elizabeth Taylor. When I saw the
Mhm.
film for the first time, I was close to like dying because it's like 3 hours of horrible
Yeah.
boredom. And afterwards, years passed, and I got into the mess of the production, the documentaries, and the same stuff
The
basically
lore.
as with the lore. Like it's very very similar to the Misfits in terms of the
Yeah.
circus, only on a much bigger scale. And only
Wow.
after,
I
yeah, you should watch this by the way. And
I should watch it. Yeah.
we can make a separate discussion about that.
Definitely. I
But
would
it's
love to.
only after you have consumed all of this exterior lore, as you said, that you become infatuated with the actual film. Otherwise, it's just not possible because it's a boring fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, absolutely. At the same time, something I really wanted to talk about was, don't you feel that maybe the charm of this film, apart from, as we said, the masterpiece being a masterpiece in retrospect,
Master
I
shit.
think the charm, master shit to masterpiece. I think the charm in it is that although the main characters, and mainly Marilyn and Clark Gable, I'm mainly referring to them now. So they were a mess. At the same time, they gave it their all, even though they, especially Marilyn, had very limited capabilities, but they poured themselves like they were sensing that this is very important, and they couldn't have known that this is their last film. But it just reminded me, of this. I think it was a fairy tale by Oscar Wilde about a nightingale